Florida newspaper is going after Marco Rubio for not doing his job. According to the Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel newspaper editorial board, Marco Rubio should either stop ripping people off or go home. Now, some of the quotes in this, and I love this, quote, by choosing to stay in the Senate and get the publicity, perks, and pay that go with the position without doing the work, you are taking advantage of us, according to the paper, the editorial board. Your job is to represent Floridians in the Senate. Either do your job, Senator Rubio, or resign. Whew. Now, they point out, rightly so, that Marco Rubio is getting paid pretty handsomely for doing whatever it is he's trying to do. He gets paid about $174,000 a year in taxpayer money to do a job that he's actually not doing. But that's not even the worst part. See, the hypocrisy about this, and I love pointing out political hypocrisy, is that he criticized federal workers, other federal workers, because he forgets that he's a federal worker, for not doing their jobs. According to this article, quote, 2 weeks ago, you took to the Senate floor to excoriate federal workers at the Department of Veterans Affairs for failing to do their jobs. And look, I'm not saying that the VA is perfect, right? I think the VA needs a lot of work, and it is right to call them out. But at the same time, you can't really throw stones if you live in a glass house. Quote, there is really no other job in the country where if you don't do your job, you don't get fired. And that was according to Marco Rubio. The paper added, quote, with the exception of your job, right? Ooh. Now, later on, a reporter from CNN actually went and challenged Marco Rubio on his record of not showing up for important votes. Let's watch this clip.
Marco Rubio criticism over and over again that you keep missing votes on the Senate floor. 43% of the votes. I know you say you're campaigning for president, but Bernie Sanders, Rand Paul, they've missed fewer than 10 votes. You're up at 59 or 60.
Well, everyone needs to run their own campaign. I can tell you that in the history of presidential politics, people have, when they've been running for politics in the Senate, they've missed votes. And I'm not missing votes because I'm on vacation.
But this many votes?
Actually, this is lower than what other people have missed. I'm running for president so that the votes they take in the Senate are actually meaningful again. A lot of these votes won't mean anything. They're not going to pass, and even if they did, the president would veto it.
The other day, though, you got up on the Senate floor and you said federal workers who don't show up should be fired.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
I said federal workers that aren't doing their jobs, that are not performing at their jobs, should be able to be fired. They should be held accountable for not performing.
So someone might say, you're not showing up, you're not doing your job by voting.
Not true, because voting is not the only part of the Senate job. I mean, the most important thing a senator does is constituent service. We're still involved in looking out for Florida's issues in the Florida.
Votes aren't important?
Of course they're important.
Intelligence committee hearings aren't important?
We do all the intelligence briefings. I was just there this Tuesday. I got fully briefed and caught up on everything that's happening in the world. I'm fully aware we have a staffer that's assigned to intelligence. We get constant briefings. I think votes, of course, are important, but unfortunately, too many of them today are not meaningful.
So I'm not going to do my job because it doesn't make a difference. Well, a lot of people could say that, hey, my job doesn't really make much of a difference if I don't do it. Oh, well, yeah, but you're going to get fired for not doing your job because you're hired to do the job, whether or not it means anything. It's ridiculous, right? But look, here's what's interesting, and I'm going to make a comparison here. So Rubio said, look, I'm campaigning for president, and besides, if I were there, it wouldn't mean anything, so, whatever, right? Now, the editorial board called that excuse insufficient. And besides, going to the comparison, Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders, he's still a senator, and he's running for president, and he's campaigning all over the country. You know what? He still does his job. Yes, he still votes. In fact, he's even introduced several different pieces of legislation, very important legislation. And one of his recent votes is something that a lot of the people in the media really aren't talking all that much about, the recent Senate vote on the Cyber Intelligence Security Act. Very important vote. He voted against it because, of course, that would allow the government to do more unauthorized spying on American citizens. Now, he's obviously against that, and so he voted. One of the few senators that voted against it, I think it was 22 senators that voted against that. Was Marco Rubio there? Don't know. I guess he didn't think it was all that much important. Another example of Bernie Sanders. While campaigning and while still doing his job, he also walked the picket line for Verizon workers. But wait a minute. Bernie Sanders is kind of old. And yet, he gets more done than Marco Rubio, who's about half his age. And it's not just him. Rand Paul, also running for president. He had time to go and vote on issues. But Marco Rubio doesn't. Okay. Now, let's continue with the article. Sorry, Senator, the editorial board writes, but Floridians sent you to Washington to do a job. We've got serious problems with clogged highways, eroding beaches, flat Social Security checks, and people who want to shut down the government. It's very, very good, right? It's important to point these things out. And look, this isn't new on Marco Rubio's part. Turns out he's got a long history of not doing his job. He's actually missed about 43% of votes since becoming a senator. That's almost half of the votes. Oh, but don't worry, I was doing other things. Well, you weren't campaigning then. What else were you doing? Were you sucking donor dick? Is that what you were doing? I mean, look, we know that half of a job of an elected official, a congressman, half their time is spent on the phone begging donors for money. But even then, with all of that, most of the senators still find time to do their job. What's your excuse, Marco? What's your excuse? And this guy is part of a party that says that poor people have a culture problem. They don't work hard enough. Even on recent speeches about the minimum wage, where he even admits, hey, the minimum wage really isn't all that much. And people work really hard and they don't get paid enough. Well, you don't want to do anything about that. You don't want to raise their pay, yet you want to get paid for not even doing your job at all. Hypocrisy. You've got a prime example of someone being lazy and having a culture problem, and it's Congress. No surprise, right? Now, finally, the editorial ends with the best part. Quote, if you hate your job, Senator, in response to him saying that he doesn't like his job and that after this term, he's done. Senator, follow the honorable lead of House Speaker John Boehner and resign.